Before you learn how to do ML4E, you should first understand how pseudo V's work. This is because ML4E is literally just doing a one move setup to a pseudo V, and then you solve the pseudo V, and then it's another one move setup, and then it has AUF after. So to understand how this works, let's go over how to learn pseudo V's. So just as this is an example, what I like to do first is, if I have, say, a solved pseudo V here, you can track with any three edges, but I think what's fastest and most consistent is to start with the edge that should go in the bottom. So in this case, it's the blue-yellow edge, and that's right here. And I'm mostly focused on the blue sticker because that's what goes on the bottom. So then I want to look at, okay, so if the blue sticker needs to go to the bottom, I'm setting up to do a R prime to solve the cube, right? So I need to see what piece needs to be here when I'm doing the R prime, and that's going to be the yellow green edge because that'll solve it. So the yellow green edge is right here. So when the blue goes here, this edge needs to go here. And since this is just a 2 cycle, I can then look at these edges. I see that this one's flipped. So that means I know what case I have, and it's gonna solve like this. And then I just have AUF and solve. So this principle applies to every pseudo V to any depth of pseudo Vs. So you can do that for a 2-move pseudo V if you just have a little bit of a frame of reference for what move you're setting up to, in this case like R prime or R, then you just track the cycles that will set up to that. Now this sounds a little bit more complicated than it really is. There are simpler ways of tracking pseudo Vs, and I've made videos on that in the past, but if you're serious about Pyraminx, then this is the best way to actually go about it. Now, how does this apply to ML4E? So for ML4E, I am going to do an alg, and in this case, the alg goes like this: L, U prime, hedge, U prime, L prime. And now what did I do there? So I did the L, and now look at where I am. I have these 4 edges that need to be solved, and then I need to do an L prime at the end of my alg. That's just a pseudo V. Even though it's a 1-move V, that always creates a pseudo V whenever you have a 1 move to a V. So in this case, I see that if I want to start tracking, let's look at the edge that goes here. That's going to be the blue-green edge, which is right here, specifically looking at blue. Blue needs to go here, and what edge needs to be here when I need to do, where does this edge need to be when I need to do the L prime? This edge, well, it needs to be between these 2 centers. So this edge needs to be here, because when it's going to be solved by the time I do the L prime. So this edge goes here, this edge goes here, and where does this edge need to go? Well, this needs to just go here. So I don't need to track what this edge needs to do, but let's just do that just for completeness. So that was just a 3 cycle. So that means this edge is either that means this edge is going to be in the correct spot. Now let's see if it's oriented or not. So when I need to do the L prime, this edge needs to be facing this way. So you see that it's actually completely solved when I do the L prime. So that means this edge is a bar. This edge needs to go here, this edge needs to go here, and this edge needs to go here. So if you think about that, that's just a hedge. And then I can just do my AUF and then the L prime. So now you could go about learning this as just like, oh, I know this is an alg that I can do. And while that is one approach that is all right to do, I don't consider that to be optimal, because while that is faster and will give you results quicker, it's not necessarily as good for the long term if you are serious about trying to get faster at Pyraminx. If you just want to get to a sub 2 average, maybe like a 1.8 average, and that's it for you, then go ahead and learn like just learning ML4E as an algorithm. But if you want to learn, if you want to like actually have a deeper understanding of the puzzle, and that can help you find cooler solutions in the future and take you to world class and beyond, then you should learn how to track cycles and how to think of ML4E as a pseudo V. I'll just quickly do like a couple more example solves with pseudo V's and ML4E just to cover my bases. And so let's just do a random normal pseudo scramble here. So you see I have a pseudo V, and this is not like an ML4E case, but you can always apply pseudo V and ML4E together, and we'll see. Maybe this case will give me that, which it won't, but all right, so let's start. So first off, the edge that goes here is gonna be the blue-yellow edge, which is right here, mostly focused on the blue sticker. So then I look at the blue sticker needs to go here, and then where does this edge need to go? This edge needs to go here when I do the R prime, right? So that means this to here, and this goes to here. Where does this edge need to go? Well, after I adjust for AUF, this edge needs to go here. Oh, and this edge needs to go back here. So this is a 4 cycle, and you can probably pretty easily tell what case it is. It's just super sledge, and there's not going to be any AUF. So this actually is going to cancel as well. So I can do the start of the algorithm, and it cancels with the R, because that's R prime would be the last move of that. And then I had to do an R prime for the pseudo adjustment. So I can just do an R2 prime, which is probably better than doing like an R. So yeah, let's try another example with an ML4E case. All right, so this case is going to be a pretty good example of how you should go about learning ML4E. There are 6 possibilities for what you can do here. From this angle, there's 3, and from this angle, there's 3. So if I check, I can do an L here, check what case that is, see if it's something that's good and maybe I should continue doing. Then I'll check here, check an L, see what case it is, see it, and then I can consider if this is one I want to commit to memory. And then finally here, and I can check that again. And then I can do the same from all 3 sides here. And now I'm not going to go over every single case, but I'll just go over 2 different angles from this side, and I'll just show you how you would go about learning this. So if I do an L just from where I have it, let's see what case I have. The edge that goes here, oh, that's the green-blue edge, and it's flipped in place right now. So now let's look at these 3 edges because this one's flipped in place. So when I do an L prime, this edge needs to go over here, this edge needs to go over here, and this edge needs to go over here. So from that information, I know I have Polish flip, and it's with a bar right here. Now, there is another way you can apply this as well, without even checking the other pseudo, because you see this, and if you know that alternate alg for this L4E case that goes like L prime, U prime, L, U, R, U prime, R prime, U. Oh, wait, that just solved the cube. And wait, not only that, but didn't L prime, and then didn't L prime, U prime, L, isn't that just redundant? So what that actually means is doing it from this angle is also good. So you could find this in 2 ways. You could realize that the alg is canceling and it's basically just setting up to this, or you can have just checked this and then seen what it is. Either way is perfectly fine for finding it. So for this case, I already showed that how it's a L4E alg from that angle. Let's just show what it is if I just started from here. So for here, let's look over here to see what edge goes here. That's the blue-green, which is right here. This edge needs to go over here, and this edge needs to go over here. So I know what case I have here. It's just a 3-move insert, and then I'm doing that to AUF. And there is another way you can think about this case too. And this one's a little bit more obscure, but if you're thinking that you do an L and then U, R, now you have the 3 move 1 flip case. And that's not necessarily as good of a way of thinking about it, but I do think it's helpful to realize that because it can come up a lot in other aspects of your solving.